Libby Squire, known to everyone as Libby, was born on January 1, 1998, in High Wycombe, England. She grew up in a loving and supportive family, raised by her parents, Lisa and Russell Squire. The Squires were a close-knit family, devoted to their children, ensuring they had a safe and nurturing upbringing. Libby was the eldest of 3 siblings, and from an early age, she was known for her kindness, intelligence, and determination. Her mother, Lisa, worked as a nurse, dedicating her life to helping others in times of need. Her father, Russell, worked in engineering, a field that required precision and problem-solving, traits that he often tried to instill in his children. Despite their busy professional lives, both parents were actively involved in their children's lives, emphasizing the importance of education, empathy, and hard work. Libby's childhood was filled with warmth and stability. She excelled academically and was known for her love of reading and philosophy. She had a deep curiosity about life and human nature, which eventually led her to pursue a degree in philosophy at the University of Hull. Her move to Hull, a city in East Yorkshire, was an exciting new chapter for her, one that offered independence, personal growth, and new friendships. At university, Libby thrived. She was well-liked by her peers and professors, known for her sharp intellect and thoughtful discussions in class. But she wasn't just about academics. She had a vibrant social life as well. She enjoyed spending time with friends, going out for meals, and exploring the city. Those who knew her described her as caring, compassionate, and fun-loving. Outside of her studies, Libby had a passion for music and poetry. She often found comfort in writing, expressing her thoughts in ways that reflected her introspective nature. Friends recalled how she would sometimes share meaningful quotes or philosophical reflections in conversations, always eager to explore life's deeper meanings. Despite her bright and friendly personality, Libby also had struggles. She faced periods of anxiety and mental health challenges, which were not uncommon for students navigating the pressures of university life. However, she had a strong support system. Her family remained closely involved in her life, and her friends were always there for her. Her parents frequently checked in on her, making sure she was adjusting well to life away from home. By early 2019, Libby was looking forward to the future. She was in her second year at university and was considering spending a year abroad to expand her academic and personal horizons. She had dreams of working in a field that allowed her to help others, whether through philosophy, counseling, or social work. No one could have predicted that her life would be tragically cut short. In just a few short months, the warmth and light that Libby brought to the world would be taken away in an unthinkable act of violence and cruelty. Her story is one that shook not only her family and friends, but an entire community. It would lead to a long and painstaking investigation, a high-profile trial, and ultimately, a fight for justice. But before we get into that, let's go back to the night that changed everything. That night, January 31st, 2019, started out like any other for a university student. A night of fun, laughter, and socializing. But before the night was over, Libby Squire would disappear, sparking one of the most intense missing person investigations the UK had seen in years. On the night of January 31st, 2019, Libby Squire, like many other university students, went out to enjoy an evening with her friends. It was a Thursday night, and the streets of Hull were filled with students heading to bars and clubs. For Libby, it was meant to be a night of fun, a break from the stress of university life. Earlier that evening, Libby and her friends gathered at a house for pre-drinks, a common tradition before heading out to a nightclub. During the gathering, she was seen laughing, talking, and enjoying herself. By all accounts, she was in good spirits. Later in the night, the group made their way to the Welly, a well-known nightclub in Hull. However, things took an unexpected turn. When they arrived at the club, Libby was denied entry. The bouncers believed she had been drinking too much, and as a result, she was not allowed inside. This left her separated from her friends. They tried to help, encouraging her to get a taxi back home. Eventually, she got into a taxi, and at 11:29 p.m., she was dropped off near her home on Wellesley Avenue. What happened next would become the focus of a massive investigation. Instead of going inside, Libby wandered away. CCTV footage later revealed that she was walking through the neighborhood, appearing disoriented and upset. At 11:40 p.m., a local resident saw her sitting on a bench near Beverly Road, a busy street in Hull. It was a cold night, and temperatures were near freezing. Witnesses later recalled that she seemed distressed, but no one could have imagined the danger she was in. At 11:45 p.m., a man in a silver Vauxhall Astra was seen driving through the area. That man was later identified as Pawel Relowicz, a 24-year-old butcher and father of two who lived nearby. He had a history of sexually motivated offenses, including voyeurism and burglary, but at the time, authorities were unaware of the full extent of his actions. Relowicz stopped his car and approached Libby. What he said to her remains unknown, but CCTV captured them speaking for a few moments before she got into his car. From that point forward, Libby Squire vanished. Over the next several hours, Relowicz drove away from the area with Libby inside his car. She was never seen alive again. By the early hours of February 1, 2019, Libby's absence became noticeable. Her friends realized she had not returned home, and by morning, her worried housemates contacted the police. This was out of character for her. She was not someone who would stay out without informing anyone. Authorities immediately launched a search operation. Hull's Humberside police deployed officers across the city, reviewing CCTV footage, conducting house-to-house inquiries, and speaking to witnesses. Volunteers joined the efforts, distributing missing person posters and sharing information online. Days passed, and there was still no sign of Libby. Her parents, Lisa and Russell Squire, traveled to Hull to assist in the search, pleading for information. The community rallied around them, offering support in any way they could. But as hours turned into days and days into weeks, the hope of finding Libby alive began to fade. As investigators combed through surveillance footage and followed leads, one name kept surfacing: Pawel Relowicz. He had been seen on CCTV interacting with Libby. His car had been in the area at the time she disappeared. And when police looked deeper into his past, they found disturbing connections to previous crimes. By February 6, 2019, police arrested Relowicz on suspicion of abduction. But with no body and no clear evidence of what happened to Libby after she got into his car, investigators were left trying to piece together the truth about that night. What they uncovered next would reveal the horrifying reality of Libby Squire's final moments. With Pawel Relowicz in custody on suspicion of abduction, investigators intensified their efforts to uncover what happened to Libby Squire on the night she vanished. Despite having CCTV footage showing her getting into Relowicz's car, they still lacked direct physical evidence linking him to her disappearance. As police examined Relowicz's background, they found a disturbing history. He had committed multiple sex-related crimes in Hull, including voyeurism, burglary, and public exposure. He would break into women's homes, steal underwear, and watch victims through their windows. Yet, before Libby's disappearance, he had never been linked to a violent crime. Police searched Relowicz's home, car, and electronic devices. Inside his vehicle, they found traces of mud and other environmental evidence, but no immediate signs of Libby. Officers also retrieved his mobile phone data, which revealed suspicious movements on the night of January 31st. His phone was traced to Oak Road Playing Fields, a secluded park near the River Hull. This area became a focal point of the investigation. Meanwhile, forensic experts examined CCTV footage and witness testimonies. Relowicz initially denied knowing Libby, then later changed his story, claiming she had willingly entered his car and that he had left her at the park unharmed. His inconsistencies raised further suspicion, but without a body, police couldn't charge him with murder. As weeks turned into months, search teams scoured Hull and surrounding areas, looking for any sign of Libby. Her family continued to make public appeals, hoping for answers. Despite exhaustive efforts, no breakthrough came. On March 20, 2019, 7 weeks after her disappearance, a grim discovery was made. A fisherman spotted a body floating in the Humber estuary, over 20 miles from where Libby was last seen. Authorities quickly recovered the remains, and forensic analysis confirmed it was Libby Squire. An autopsy determined that she had suffered severe injuries, but due to the length of time in the water, the exact cause of death was difficult to establish. However, evidence of assault was present, further confirming suspicions of foul play. The condition of her body and the location where she was found matched Relowicz's movements on the night of January 31st. Police now had crucial forensic evidence that tied him to Libby's murder. With Libby's body recovered, the case against Pawel Relowicz strengthened. Police re-interviewed him, but he continued to change his story. Eventually, after reviewing phone records, CCTV footage, and forensic findings, prosecutors charged him with assault and murder. Libby's family, devastated by the confirmation of her fate, pleaded for justice. The once promising university student had fallen victim to a predator whose past crimes had gone unnoticed for too long. As Relowicz prepared to stand trial, investigators and prosecutors built a solid case against him, ensuring that he would face the full consequences of his actions. With forensic evidence, CCTV footage, and witness testimonies linking Pawel Relowicz to Libby Squire's disappearance and death, prosecutors moved forward with their case. The trial took place at Sheffield Crown Court in January 2021, nearly 2 years after Libby's murder. Relowicz faced charges of assault and murder, but he pleaded not guilty, forcing the prosecution to present every detail of the evidence they had gathered. Libby's family sat in the courtroom, hearing painful details of what had happened to their daughter. The prosecution laid out a meticulous timeline of events from the night of January 31, 2019. They showed CCTV footage capturing Libby's last known moments, her encounter with Relowicz, and his suspicious movements after picking her up. Phone data placed Relowicz in Oak Road playing fields, where he claimed he had left Libby. The prosecution argued that he had instead raped and murdered her before disposing of her body in the River Hull. Forensic evidence was crucial. Libby's DNA was found inside Relowicz's car, contradicting his claims that their interaction was brief and innocent. Further, bodily fluids recovered from Libby's body matched Relowicz, proving assault had occurred. The prosecution described how Relowicz had previously committed sex-related offenses, including voyeurism and burglary. He also exposed himself to some ladies one night as he followed them to their front door. On other occasions, he broke into people's houses to steal ladies' sex toys and underwear, and once he was caught peeping through a window to watch a couple while they had sex, but his crimes had escalated. They argued that Libby had been in a vulnerable state, and Relowicz had taken advantage of that, leading to her death. Relowicz's defense team attempted to argue that Libby had willingly entered his car and engaged in sexual activity. He claimed he had left her at the park unharmed, denying any involvement in her death. However, this version of events was contradicted by evidence. CCTV footage showed Libby was visibly distressed and disoriented before getting into Relowicz's car, making it unlikely that she had willingly engaged in any encounter with him. Additionally, forensic analysis of her injuries and clothing suggested force had been used. The prosecution argued that after assaulting Libby, Relowicz had likely pushed her into the freezing waters of the River Hull, knowing that her intoxicated and weakened state would prevent her from surviving. Libby's mother also mentioned that her daughter was scared of water and didn't know how to swim, so there were possibilities that he had thrown her into the river alive, and that being intoxicated and unable to swim would have made matters even worse. After hearing weeks of evidence, the jury deliberated. On February 11, 2021, they returned with their verdict. Pawel Relowicz was found guilty of the assault and murder of Libby Squire. Libby's family broke down in tears, finally receiving justice for their daughter. Relowicz showed no emotion as the verdict was read. On February 12, 2021, the judge sentenced Pawel Relowicz to life in prison, with a minimum term of 27 years before he could be considered for parole. The judge described his crimes as predatory, callous, and brutal, emphasizing that he had robbed Libby of her future and inflicted unimaginable pain on her loved ones. The sentencing brought a sense of closure, but the impact of Libby's murder remained. Her mother, Libby Squire, vowed to keep her daughter's memory alive and campaigned for stronger protections for women against predatory offenders. With Relowicz behind bars, Libby's family hoped that no other woman would fall victim to a predator like him. With Pawel Relowicz convicted and sentenced to life in prison, the case of Libby Squire's tragic death did not simply fade away. For Libby's family, friends, and the wider public, the impact of her murder was profound, sparking conversations about women's safety, justice for victims, and the dangers of predatory offenders. Following the trial, Libby's mother, Libby Squire, became a powerful advocate for women's safety. While grieving the loss of her daughter, she dedicated herself to raising awareness about violence against women and the dangers posed by repeat sexual offenders like Relowicz. Lisa spoke openly about how Libby's murder had forever changed their family, describing the pain of losing a daughter in such a violent manner. However, she refused to let Libby's name be defined only by tragedy. Instead, she channeled her grief into campaigning for change, hoping that no other family would have to suffer the same loss. One of Lisa's biggest concerns was how offenders like Relowicz were able to continue committing sex-related crimes without being stopped sooner. Before murdering Libby, Relowicz had a history of voyeurism, burglary, and other sexually motivated offenses, yet he was still free to roam the streets. Lisa worked alongside police, lawmakers, and advocacy groups to push for stronger monitoring of repeat offenders, arguing that law enforcement needed better tools to identify and stop dangerous individuals before their crimes escalated to violence and murder. Libby's case reignited discussions across the UK about women's safety, particularly in university towns and nightlife areas. Many young women related to Libby's story, recognizing how easily a night out could turn into a nightmare. Universities and local councils reevaluated safety measures, improving street lighting, access to transportation, and awareness campaigns on how to stay safe at night. The police also focused on educating the public about predatory behaviors, encouraging people to report suspicious activities before they escalated into more serious crimes. In response to Libby's case and other similar incidents, UK law enforcement agencies reviewed their handling of low-level sexual offenses, particularly voyeurism and public indecency cases. Authorities acknowledged that criminals like Relowicz often start with minor offenses before progressing to more violent crimes. As a result, discussions took place about harsher penalties for repeat sex offenders and better tracking systems to prevent known predators from slipping through the cracks. Despite the tragedy, Libby's legacy lives on through her family's activism and the awareness her case has brought to issues of violence against women. The University of Hull and members of the local community have held vigils, fundraisers, and awareness campaigns in her honor, ensuring that her story is never forgotten. Libby Squire has continued to speak out, using her platform to support initiatives that protect women, improve victim support, and ensure that justice systems hold perpetrators accountable. Through her advocacy, Libby's life continues to make an impact, preventing future tragedies and helping to create a safer world for young women. Libby Squire's case is a heartbreaking reminder of how one night, one decision, and one encounter with the wrong person can change everything. Her murder devastated her family and shook the nation, leading to critical conversations about safety, justice, and the responsibility of law enforcement to act before tragedy strikes. Though Pawel Relowicz will spend decades behind bars, the pain of Libby's loss remains. But through her family's efforts, the awareness sparked by her case, and the changes it has influenced, Libby's story has become more than just a tragedy. It has become a call for change, ensuring that her memory is honored and that her death was not in vain. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to be notified as we add new videos daily. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.